Let's get more reaction on what's going on in and around Syria from Neil Clark. He's a UK-based journalist and contributor to the Guardian newspaper, joining us there in the UK. Western and Arab countries want to put pressure on Russia to back their draft resolution. That is what's happening at the moment. Will they succeed?
I hope they don't succeed. I think it'd be very, very bad if they do succeed, because I think that this draft resolution is not a real attempt to solve Syria's problems in a peaceful way. It does pave the way for intervention later, which is a great concern. And I think it's not very helpful with the repeated calls for Assad to go, because President Assad does have support within Syria, sizable support. There was for example, there was an opinion poll carried out a month ago which showed he had over 50% of the support of Syrians who didn't want him to stand down. There's also been major pro-Assad demonstrations within Syria. And it seems to me that the Western powers are not really acknowledging the rights of the people who support Assad.
Why would intervention be a bad thing? Clearly, Russia very concerned about that.
Libya, that's one answer. Iraq, have a look around. The Balkans. Intervention causes death and destruction. We don't want it. It would create massive casualties on the ground. And it's the last thing Syria wants.
But Neil, just to ask, wouldn't this violence continue if there isn't foreign intervention?
Well, I think the violence is being caused by foreign intervention. There was a very interesting article by Philip Giraldi, a former CIA officer, in the American Conservative magazine last month, in which he detailed how French special forces, British special forces, American special forces are actually intervening to help the opposition, the rebels. So in fact, this is being stoked up by foreign intervention. It's a myth that, oh, we need foreign intervention to solve serious problems. These problems have been stoked up. I'm not saying that, obviously there are people who have grave concerns about the Assad regime in Syria, democratic protesters who have every right to be protesting peacefully, but the situation has been made a lot worse by foreign intervention.
What is the end game here? Surely if Assad does fall, that would lead to not just major instability and civil war, which Russia's concerned about in Syria, some say it's already started, but also the implications in the wider region.
Well, yes, this is a proxy war against Iran. That's what this is really all about. The West wants regime change in Damascus so as to replace the Assad regime, replace it with the opposition who will change their foreign policy to an anti-Iranian one. They've already said, the opposition, that they will break the Damascus-Tehran axis. So this is really a proxy war. And if the West gets its way here and forces forcibly Assad to go or intervenes militarily, then the war against Iran is much more likely to happen.
But where do these oppositions come from? In Iran, for example, is there really a cohesive, united opposition to take the place of the current regime? As the same could be said, of course, about Syria.
Not at all, no. I mean, the Syrian opposition, we've got to distinguish between progressive forces who have legitimate grievances against the Assad regime and who want to see more democracy in Syria, and between rebels who are being funded by the West and whose aim is to stir things up as much as they can. They're a very divided group, and the West doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't seem to care about this so long as Assad is replaced by Western puppets.
But not just the West here. Arab countries are also keen to see a regime change in Syria.
Quite. When I talk about the West, I mean, of course, the Western Arab allies, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states, etc., and of course Israel. All those countries have got one thing in common: they don't like Iran. They don't like President Assad because he's friendly with Iran. This is not really about genuine concern for human rights and democracy. This is all about regime change.
Let's talk about the implications of Moscow being obviously pressured by other members of the UN Security Council. We're seeing this meeting happening at the moment. On a wider scale, I mean, is Russia going to be isolated on this? What does it do with the impact it has with its relations with other UN members?
Well, it's not isolated. I think if you had a world opinion poll, I think most people would say bravo to Russia internationally. Russia and China and their actions at the UN to prevent intervention here would be supported. I mean, Russia and China were duped over Libya last year, and it would be a mistake if the Russians think that they are isolated. They're not. They have world opinion. It's just the West which shouts the loudest. It's Britain, it's France, it's America, it's Israel, it's the Arab states who are backed by the West. This is not the world. This is not the international community. This phrase, the international community, it should mean the whole world, shouldn't it?
So should Russia veto or abstain in this resolution?
I think Russia should veto this and put forward its own resolution which calls for a Syrian solution to this problem.
And the problem is the solution here is negotiation, isn't it? And when you have the opposition being apparently being encouraged by Western countries not to engage in negotiations, you're never going to get that, are you?
That is the big problem. The West has been irresponsible. The West could have been saying to the opposition, look, go and meet with the government. The government, as I said, opinion polls, the huge demonstration shows the government still has majority support probably in Syria. So therefore, to say that, oh, well, Assad's got no future, the Ba'ath Party's got no future, is absolutely undemocratic. There should be dialogue between both sides.
Neil, always good to talk to you on these matters. Thanks very much for joining us live there. UK-based journalist and contributor to the Guardian newspaper, Neil Clark. Thank you.
Thank you very much.